Life in Iceland, beautiful women, and the world's strangest country. Imagine a place where the tap water is cleaner than your favorite bottled brand. People literally relax inside volcanic hot springs, and the women? So naturally stunning, it doesn't even feel real. Welcome to Iceland, the country that feels like it was designed on another planet. But don't let the fairy tale fool you. Beneath this postcard-perfect beauty lies a country full of contradictions. No military whatsoever, legal strip clubs, and a cost of living so high it should be unlivable. Yet somehow it works. This isn't just another destination video. This is the raw, strange, wild truth about life inside the world's weirdest, most beautiful country, where nothing is quite what it seems. From the outside, Iceland looks like a dream. Endless waterfalls, black sand beaches, northern lights dancing across the sky. But if you think this video is just about scenic views, you're in for a surprise. We're talking about a country where dating apps come with built-in family trees to make sure you're not about to hook up with your cousin. Where ancient Viking traditions still quietly shape modern life. And where women not only run the country politically but also dominate in everyday life, socially, sexually, and economically. Over 60% of the population lives in just one city, Reykjavik. That means if someone ghosts you here, you might still run into them 3 times a week at the same cafe, the same gym, and definitely at the same bar on Friday night. It's one of the most gender-equal societies on Earth. Yet, it's also a place with strange, unspoken rules about relationships, fame, and even belief in elves. Yes, elves. This isn't one of those polished influencer-style travel videos. You won't just see the good side. We're going deep into the bizarre dating culture, the raw truths about Iceland's nightlife, the crazy cost of living, and some of the most unexpected habits that locals think are totally normal. By the end of this video, you'll either be booking a flight or scratching your head wondering how this even exists on planet Earth. Either way, you'll never look at Iceland the same again. Let's address the icy elephant in the room. Icelandic women. You've seen the headlines, you've scrolled past the Instagram reels, and you've probably heard a few stories that sound too good to be true. But are they? Well, yes. And also, not exactly. First off, yes, Icelandic women are beautiful. Not in a runway model, plastic-perfect kind of way, but in that naturally stunning, effortless, I just woke up like this in a glacier kind of way. Most have clear skin, strong facial features, and light eyes, thanks to generations of genetic isolation, low pollution, and maybe some Viking magic. But what really makes them stand out isn't just the looks, it's the confidence. Icelandic women walk like they own the sidewalk, and honestly, most of the time they kind of do. Now, let's talk numbers. Iceland constantly ranks among the top countries for female beauty, but even more impressively, it's ranked number 1 in the world for gender equality for over a decade by the World Economic Forum. That means Icelandic women don't just look good. They lead governments, run companies, and can outdrink most tourists on a Friday night. They've had a female president since the 80s. They dominate university graduation stats, and when it comes to relationships, they call the shots more often than not. But here's where it gets really interesting. Dating in Iceland isn't what most outsiders expect. It's casual, it's direct, it's brutally honest. Forget awkward dinner dates and waiting 3 days to text back. Here, people go from small talk to Netflix in less than an hour. And we're not exaggerating. There's even a phrase Icelanders use that roughly translates to, "Wanna go for coffee?" But everyone knows it's not about the caffeine. And the feminism? It's not performative. It's not trending. It's real. Icelandic women are raised to be independent, outspoken, and unbothered. They don't need you to pay for the meal, and they'll probably call you out if you try to mansplain the wine list. But don't confuse this independence with disinterest. Icelanders just don't like games. If they're into you, you'll know. If they're not, well, you'll know that too. Quickly, there's also the famous app, Icelandinga appid, which helps you make sure your date isn't your cousin. Because with only around 380,000 people in the whole country, family trees get real tangled, real fast. The app literally has a bump feature, where you and another person tap phones to see how closely related you are. Imagine that. Flirting. In a bar, sparks flying, then boom. Your phone vibrates and tells you you're third cousins. Welcome to Iceland. Open relationships are another thing here. While not everyone's into it, there's a level of sexual freedom that's just more normalized than in other parts of the world. You won't see people judging you for how many partners you've had, or whether you're wife material. People value honesty over tradition and emotional connection over labels. Now let's throw in a bit of foreigner reality check. Many tourists, especially men, arrive in Iceland with dreams of meeting a goddess in a geothermal spa. And while that might happen, the truth is more nuanced. Icelandic women aren't some exotic fantasy. They're regular people with high standards and a lot of self-respect. If you roll in acting cocky or thinking your accent is enough to score points, they'll shut you down faster than the country's last volcanic eruption. But there are success stories. Foreigners who've dated or even married Icelandic women often say the same thing. It's not easy, but it's worth it. You'll be challenged, you'll have to communicate, and you'll definitely have to pull your weight. But if you're into strong, intelligent women who won't tolerate nonsense, Iceland is your place. And, of course, let's not forget the humor side of all this. Dating in Iceland isn't hard, unless you're shy. Then you're probably screwed. Or, well, probably not, because Icelandic women won't chase you, and if you can't approach them with confidence and respect, you'll be left sipping your overpriced craft beer alone, while she walks out the door with someone who actually knew how to speak without stuttering. In short, Icelandic women are not here to validate your ego. They're here to live their lives, beautifully, fiercely, and unapologetically. If you can keep up, great. If not, no hard feelings. Just don't take it personally. There's always the next bar, the next Friday, and maybe even a less related match on the app. Most countries worry about national defense. Iceland? Iceland worries about not upsetting the elves. No, this isn't a joke. This is just regular Tuesday-level thinking in the world's most eccentric nation. Let's start with the facts. Iceland has no standing army. None. No military. Bases. No tanks, no fighter jets casually parked outside Reykjavik. Instead, it relies on international treaties and NATO for protection. But even then, it's never really had a reason to worry. The last time Iceland was involved in a conflict was during the Cod Wars. And that was basically a diplomatic tug-of-war with the UK over fishing rights. Not exactly the stuff of war documentaries. Now, here's where it gets wild. While Iceland doesn't spend billions on soldiers or missiles, a huge number of Icelanders believe in elves. Not as a quirky folklore thing, but as actual hidden people who live in rocks, hills, and untouched parts of nature. Surveys show that more than 50% of the population either believe in or refuse to rule out the existence of elves, known locally as huldufolk. And that belief actually affects real-life decisions. There are documented cases, and we're talking about serious cases here, where construction projects have been halted, rerouted, or even completely canceled because locals believed the work was disturbing the homes of elves. In one case, a highway project was delayed because it was passing through an elf habitat. Protesters gathered not to protect trees or wildlife, but to defend invisible residents. And the government listened. The project was modified. You may be tempted to laugh, but here's the deeper point. In Iceland, nature isn't just something you build on. It's something you respect. The belief in elves reflects something much bigger than mythical beings. It's about the way Icelanders view the world around them. Nature is sacred, untouched landscapes are treated with reverence, and even invisible beings are given the benefit of the doubt. That's a level of spiritual awareness most modern societies lost a long time ago. This blend of folklore and policy isn't just cultural fluff. It's built into Iceland's identity. Urban planners have been known to consult elf experts before breaking ground. Roads curve around rocks that belong to the hidden people. Construction companies often bring in folklorists, yes, actual professionals, to determine whether certain sites are sensitive. It's like having an environmental consultant, except this one checks for spiritual property lines drawn by creatures you can't see. And tourists, they eat it up. Elf tourism is a thing here. You can sign up for tours that visit known elf sites where locals share stories of strange encounters, equipment failures, or odd noises that happened while disrespecting elf territory. It might sound like fairy tales, but when you're standing in the middle of a fog-covered lava field with nothing but silence around you, even the most skeptical minds start to shift. What's incredible is how all this coexists with Iceland's modern progress. You'd think a country that believes in elves might be stuck in the past, but Iceland is one of the most technologically advanced nations per capita. They've got world-class healthcare, internet speeds that'll shame Silicon Valley, and a startup scene that's surprisingly robust for a country with more sheep than people. It's not primitive, it's balanced. Old beliefs don't die here, they just get woven into the new world. The absence of a military and the presence of elven diplomacy tell us something huge about Iceland's core values. It's not just about pacifism or quirky superstitions. It's about prioritizing peace, harmony, and respect over force. And in a world constantly on edge where nations pour billions into weapons, Iceland somehow manages to stay one of the safest places on Earth, with no army and a lot of elves. So the next time you hear someone say, "That's just Iceland being weird," maybe it's not weird, maybe it's wise, maybe the secret to national peace isn't more weapons. It's fewer bulldozers, and a little more belief in things we can't see. In Iceland, your next Tinder date could be your cousin, literally. With a population of only around 375,000 people, the chances of running into a distant relative while swiping right on dating apps are surprisingly high. The country's small size makes it easy for family trees to overlap in unexpected ways, which is why Icelanders had to come up with a solution to prevent what they like to call accidental inbreeding. Enter the Icelandinga app, or as locals call it, the Iceland app. The app isn't your average hookup tool, it's a genealogy app designed to check family connections. You might think it's a joke, but it's very real. Iceland has a deep history of family connections, one that spans back over 1,000 years to the Norse settlers who first colonized the island. With such a small gene pool, dating could get awkward, so the Icelandinga app lets you look up your potential partner's family tree before you get too carried away. You simply enter your name into the app, and it'll quickly tell you if you share any ancestors with the person you're considering. While this sounds like something out of a science fiction novel, the app is considered a practical tool for avoiding the genetic risk that comes with mixing family ties in such a small society. For Icelanders, this is no laughing matter. It's a real concern. After all, you don't want to end up at a family reunion and realize your cute date was actually your fourth cousin once removed. But the Icelandinga app isn't just a quirky utilitarian invention. It's a fascinating reflection of Iceland's culture. The fact that an entire nation has embraced an app designed to stop people from dating relatives tells you a lot about their honest approach to relationships. Icelanders have a unique relationship with family, intimacy, and dating that you won't find in many places on Earth. Here's the thing. Iceland is known for its liberal attitudes toward relationships, and casual dating is a common cultural norm. Open relationships are more widely accepted here than in many other countries, and hookups aren't necessarily seen as taboo. Iceland's relaxed attitude toward love and dating is rooted in their strong sense of individuality and personal freedom. People aren't afraid to be upfront about their desires and interests, which creates an environment where everyone is just a little more honest about their intentions. But despite the freedom and openness, there is a clear cultural expectation when it comes to being responsible. And the Icelandinga app serves as a tool to strike a balance between freedom and responsibility. It's almost a funny but very practical solution to a modern problem that many countries don't need to worry about. You might find it a bit odd, but in a small nation where everyone knows everyone's business, it's a perfectly sensible precaution. Humor plays a significant role in how Icelanders approach the potential awkwardness of accidental inbreeding. Dating in Iceland isn't hard unless you're shy, one local joke goes. Then you're probably going to need the app, or you'll end up at a family dinner with your date. There's an honesty about the situation that makes it more funny than uncomfortable, and this reflects the country's laid-back, no-nonsense attitude toward relationships. Iceland's approach to casual dating also carries a more serious tone. They focus on connections, not status. In a small society, it's easy for people to get caught up in the sense of community and know each other on a deeper level than just casual acquaintances. As a result, Icelandic dating culture encourages openness, but also caution and thoughtfulness, especially when it comes to family history. After all, in a country where your next partner could very well be a cousin, it pays to be aware of who you're swiping at. While the Icelandinga app might seem like an odd addition to the dating scene, it highlights a pragmatic side of Icelandic culture that appreciates both tradition and modernity. Yes, they have a rich Viking heritage that includes people tracking their family histories for centuries. But in modern times, Icelanders have turned this tradition into a tool for better, safer, and less awkward relationships. In the end, Icelandic dating isn't just about swiping right. It's about ensuring that your connection is built on a solid foundation, free of awkward surprises and loaded with the same raw honesty that permeates the rest of Icelandic life. And when it comes to love, that's a pretty good foundation to start with. Would you pay $20 for a burger? Icelanders do, and they're fine with it. If you're thinking of visiting Iceland, get ready for a sticker shock when it comes to prices. Iceland regularly tops the list of most expensive countries in the world, but here's the kicker. Its residents don't seem to mind. Why? Because despite the high costs, Iceland offers an extraordinary quality of life that makes it all worth it. The reasons behind Iceland's sky-high prices are a mix of geography, demand, and a reliance on imports. For starters, Iceland is an island in the North Atlantic, making almost everything more expensive. Imports are the biggest contributor to the high cost of goods. Since most food, products, and materials have to be shipped in, the transportation costs are passed down to the consumer. You'll find that even the simplest of things like fresh produce is a lot more expensive here than in most other countries. For example, that standard $5 carton of milk in the US? In Iceland, it might set you back closer to $7 or $8. But it's not just food that's expensive. Gas prices are consistently high due to the nation's reliance on imported oil. Even basic services like healthcare, although still largely subsidized, can cost more than you'd expect if you're not a local resident. And yes, a burger at a mid-range restaurant could easily run you $20, and that's on a good day. Add a drink, and you're at $30 without blinking. Yet, despite this, Icelanders aren't complaining. It's a place where the cost of living is a given, and people have adjusted. The high prices have become part of the rhythm of life, and locals have learned to budget and prioritize what's important. So, what can you actually get for your 500 wheelers in Iceland? Well, accommodation is the first hurdle. A budget hotel or Airbnb room in Reykjavik will likely eat up a chunk of your budget, with rates ranging from $100 to $150 per night, depending on the time of year. If you're hoping to stretch your stay to a week on $500, you're probably looking at a tight budget. Food? Plan to spend $20 to $30 per meal if you're eating at an average restaurant. Although you could save by eating in or trying the cheap quick eats like hot dogs, don't knock them until you've tried one. The famous Icelandic hot dog, often dubbed the best in the world, will only set you back about $3 to $5, a steal compared to the rest of the menu. Supermarkets are a bit of a mixed bag. While you can find affordable snacks like Icelandic yogurt, skyr, fruits and veggies will cost you more than you're probably used to paying. As for travel within Iceland, $500 is enough for a basic road trip, but you'll need to be mindful of your itinerary. Renting a car for a week will cost you upwards of $250, not including gas. If you're dreaming of exploring Iceland's vast, natural wonders like the Golden Circle, you'll have to factor in the cost of entry to attractions, which usually aren't free. Luckily, Iceland offers some incredible outdoor experiences that are completely free, like hiking its pristine trails or visiting the awe-inspiring waterfalls like Gullfoss or Skogafoss. If you're into geothermal pools, though, expect to pay a little to soak in those hot springs. The famous Blue Lagoon, for instance, can cost you anywhere from $60 to $100 for a day pass. But here's the thing. Despite the expensive lifestyle, people are staying and they're loving it. It's not just locals who've embraced the high prices. Foreigners are coming to Iceland, falling in love with its unique charm and choosing to make it home. People who have moved here from all over the world often talk about the overwhelming sense of safety, peace, and beauty they experience in Iceland. Yes, it's expensive, but the quality of life is off the charts. Take Vera, a New Yorker who decided to relocate to Reykjavik. She spent the first few months of her life there being shocked by the prices, but eventually realized it was a small price to pay for the benefits. "You're paying for peace," she said. "The tranquility here, the beauty, the clean air, and the sense of community. It's priceless." Vera isn't the only one. Many foreigners who settle in Iceland quickly grow to appreciate the country's healthcare system, education, and the general welfare of its citizens. The unparalleled sense of safety, the stunning landscapes, and the sense of belonging make the high cost of living feel like a small trade-off. Iceland also invests heavily in environmental sustainability, which contributes to its beauty and high living standards. The country is powered almost entirely by renewable energy, thanks to its abundant geothermal and hydropower resources. It's a place that feels future-forward and offers an incredible lifestyle for those who can afford it. And the truth is, Icelanders are doing just fine financially. Despite the high cost of living, Iceland's citizens are among the wealthiest in the world, with low unemployment and a high standard of living. So, would you pay $20 for a burger? If you're in Iceland, it's not about the burger. It's about being part of a culture that truly values quality of life. From the moment you step into Reykjavik, you'll realize that Iceland is more than just its high costs. It's a country where the price you pay for things reflects the incredible quality of what you get in return. Despite the expensive price tags, the country's appeal is undeniable, and it continues to attract both locals and foreigners alike, proving that sometimes the most expensive places are also the most worth it. Iceland looks like it skipped Earth and went straight to Mars. It's not just a catchy phrase, it's an honest take on the otherworldly landscapes that define Iceland. This country, with its stark contrasts and surreal vistas, might just be the closest thing to living on a different planet. If you've ever wondered what it would be like to step into a place where nature is completely untamed, where every corner of the land feels like it's from a science fiction film, then you've never seen Iceland. From glaciers to lava fields, black sand beaches, and blue lagoons, Iceland's landscapes aren't just beautiful, they're mind-bending. And the crazy thing is, these breathtaking sights aren't far from where people live. In fact, most Icelanders go about their daily lives surrounded by this wild geography. Imagine living in a city where volcanoes are just a few miles away, where geysers erupt regularly, and where the air smells like sulfur as you walk down the street. This is everyday life in Iceland, and it shapes how the Icelandic people live, work, and think. For many locals, there's a deep spiritual connection to the land. Iceland isn't just land to them. It's a living, breathing entity that nurtures them and keeps them in constant awe. Glaciers and lava fields. Iceland's frozen and fiery beauty. Let's start with the glaciers. Huge, towering, and otherworldly. Iceland is home to Vatnajökull, Europe's largest glacier, and it covers about 8% of the country. The glaciers create frozen wildernesses that look like they belong to another world entirely. You can walk on glaciers, hike along their icy ridges, or take a snowmobile tour for a wild ride across their frozen terrain. There's a sense of awe when you're standing on a glacier, knowing that it's been formed over thousands of years. With ice so ancient it feels like you're walking on the past. But glaciers aren't the only icy wonders here. Iceland's landscapes are infamous for their volcanic eruptions. While the volcanoes might seem intimidating, they're also what makes the country so visually captivating. When the volcanoes erupt, they shape the land in dramatic ways, creating lava fields that stretch for miles. The harsh, jagged terrain is something you won't find anywhere else on Earth. It's raw and unforgiving, but it also has a strange beauty to it. The black lava rock, cracked and charred by centuries of eruptions, contrasts sharply with the green moss that grows on top, creating a paradox of life and death. Black sand beaches, nature's art gallery. And then there are the black sand beaches. These beaches are a direct result of Iceland's volcanic activity. When lava flows into the ocean and cools, it forms black sand. The most famous is Reynisfjara, where dark volcanic sands stretch along the coastline. Here, you can watch waves crash onto the shore, while the Reynisdrangar sea stacks rise out of the ocean like giant stone fingers. It's almost eerie, but in the most stunning way. The air is always crisp, the waves relentless, and the feeling of standing there is enough to make anyone pause and just take it all in. It's hard not to feel small in a place like this, where nature is both beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Blue lagoons, hot springs. From the core. Of course, Iceland is also known for its blue lagoons, where the water is a stunning shade of blue, and the minerals in the geothermal springs make it feel like you're soaking in nature's spa. These natural hot springs are scattered across the country, but the Blue Lagoon near Reykjavik is the most famous. The water is heated by volcanic activity and has been used by Icelanders for centuries. You can take a bath in the soothing, warm waters or simply relax in the steamy pools surrounded by black volcanic rocks. And here's the kicker. The Blue Lagoon is actually located in the middle of a lava field. Imagine that, swimming in warm, mineral-rich water while surrounded by lava rocks and fissures. The locals have long known that these geothermal baths aren't just a luxury. They're also a vital part of the Icelandic way of life. It's not uncommon to find a small community bath nestled by the side of a volcano or hot spring, where residents unwind after a long day. So, if you're ever in Iceland, don't be surprised if someone casually suggests, "Want to take a bath? Just jump into a volcano-heated pool." It's how they do things here, and it's something you'll soon come to appreciate too. Everyday life surrounded by nature's fury. But it's not just about the scenic views. It's about how this raw nature influences Icelanders' everyday lives. Iceland is essentially a country built on volcanoes and geysers. Volcanoes like Eyjafjallajökull and Hekla are constantly threatening to erupt, but Icelanders have learned to coexist with these giants, adapting to the ever-present risk. The land is alive and unpredictable, and for locals, this is part of the charm. Living in a place that's always shifting and changing gives a unique sense of perspective. It makes Icelanders resilient. They understand that nature is powerful and indifferent, and they've learned to adapt and thrive in spite of it. Many Icelanders feel deeply connected to the land. often citing it as the main reason they choose to stay in the country. For them, nature isn't just something to look at, it's a part of them. It's a place where the Earth's forces shape not only the geography, but also the very identity of its people. It's no surprise that Iceland's national identity is rooted in its natural landscape. The land's power and beauty have influenced the country's myths, traditions, and even art. Humor and emotional pull. The Icelandic connection to nature. It's also this connection to nature that makes Icelanders so unique. They live in one of the most beautiful and dangerous places on Earth, and it's almost as if the land itself has shaped their personalities. There's a certain dry humor and stoicism that comes with living in such a harsh environment. Icelanders have learned to laugh at their circumstances and take everything in stride. So, when the weather turns sideways or a geyser erupts unexpectedly, they just shrug it off. "Another day in paradise," they'll say with a smile. It's their way of embracing the elements, respecting the power of nature, and celebrating the beauty that comes with living on a land that feels not of this earth. In the end, Iceland isn't just about its stunning landscapes. It's about how those landscapes shape the people who live there, creating a deep-rooted connection between the people and the land. For Icelanders, nature isn't something you just visit. It's something you live with, something that defines who they are and how they see the world. So, next time you step onto a black sand beach or soak in a geothermal pool, remember that you're not just in Iceland. You're in a land that has molded its people and their way of life for centuries. And, in a way, it's molded you too, making you feel connected to something much bigger than yourself. This tiny Nordic country has no problem with nudity, strip clubs, or writing Viking-era softcore novels. In Iceland, sex, sagas, and strip clubs come together in a way that seems almost unimaginable in many other parts of the world. The country's liberal approach to sex and intimacy is just one of the many facets of its culture that sets it apart from the rest of the world. But what exactly makes Iceland so open about sexuality? How did a small Nordic country become known for its sex-positive culture, and what do its ancient Viking traditions have to do with this modern-day openness? Iceland's liberal sexual culture. When it comes to sexual freedom, Iceland seems almost ahead of its time. While many countries around the world still struggle with issues of sex education and gender equality, Iceland has long been one of the most liberal societies when it comes to discussing and experiencing sexuality. Public nudity? Not a big deal. Here, it's not uncommon to see people stripping down in public pools, spas, and saunas without anyone batting an eye. In fact, Icelanders don't think twice about getting completely undressed before entering a swimming pool. It's the norm. These spa and pool traditions stem from ancient Viking customs, where cleanliness was highly valued and the concept of modesty, particularly in relation to the body, was different from modern expectations. The freedom surrounding public nudity reflects a broader societal acceptance of the human body and sexuality. There's no shame attached to being naked in public spaces, whether you're soaking in a geothermal hot spring or relaxing in a sauna. This openness is also evident in the way Icelanders talk about sex. It's rarely a taboo subject. Sex. Education is thorough, and discussions about consent, relationships, and sexuality are encouraged in a safe, respectful environment. Iceland's progressive stance on sexual rights has helped to shape its reputation as one of the most forward-thinking countries in terms of gender equality and sexual liberation. Legal strip clubs, once, strong views on sex work now. Let's talk about strip clubs and sex work. For a country that's known for its progressive sexual culture, it's a bit of a shock to find out that strip clubs were once legal in Iceland. Yes, Iceland had strip clubs operating freely, and this was the case for quite some time. The nation's sexual liberation allowed for the creation of venues that catered to this adult entertainment industry. And while there was certainly some controversy around these places, they were part of Iceland's more relaxed approach to adult behavior. However, in 2010, Iceland passed a law that banned strip clubs entirely, citing concerns about the exploitation of women and the ethics of sex work. Despite the ban, Iceland's views on sex work remain complex. While the country legalized prostitution in 2009, making it legal for individuals to sell sex, it's illegal to buy sex, making Iceland one of the few countries with this contradictory approach. These laws highlight Iceland's commitment to human rights and gender equality, and their drive to ensure that people involved in the adult entertainment industry are protected from exploitation. Despite the ban on strip clubs, Iceland remains one of the few countries where the conversation around sex work and gender rights is open and unrestricted. There's an inherent belief that people should be free to make their own decisions about their bodies, whether it's engaging in sexual activity, working in the adult industry, or simply enjoying their sexuality without fear of judgment. It's a progressive viewpoint that continues to influence Icelandic culture and politics as the country grapples with the ethical implications of legal sex work. The influence of Norse mythology on modern sexual openness. But where does all this sexual openness come from? One could argue that Iceland's cultural and sexual freedom has deep roots in Norse mythology. The sagas of old, filled with warriors, gods, and lusty affairs, often depicted sexuality in a very different light than the more conservative attitudes seen in other parts of the world. These ancient stories were full of romantic escapades, infidelities, and explicit sexual references, which suggests that the Icelandic view of sexuality was always one of liberation rather than repression. Take, for example, Viking sagas that tell stories of gods like Freyr, who was known for his love affairs and sexual exploits. The gods were depicted as both warriors and lovers, living without shame or guilt about their desires. This open portrayal of sexuality became a core part of Icelandic cultural identity, making its way into modern-day perspectives on sex and intimacy. In fact, many Icelanders trace their country's sex-positive culture directly back to these ancient tales, where sexual freedom and a healthy relationship with one's body were accepted and even celebrated. Why the rest of the world still sees this as weird. Despite Iceland's progressive stance on sex and nudity, the rest of the world often looks at these practices with skepticism or outright shock. Many countries, particularly in the West, are still tied to a more conservative view of sexuality, where nudity is often equated with shame, and discussions about sex remain taboo or restricted. In contrast, Iceland has embraced a culture of openness that to outsiders might seem foreign or even weird. Yet, in Iceland, it's not about being rebellious or outrageous. It's about normalizing the human experience. The freedom surrounding nudity and sexuality is simply an extension of the country's broader belief in personal liberty and equality. For Icelanders, being open about sex is not an act of defiance but a natural way of life, deeply intertwined with their Viking heritage and modern values of respect, inclusivity, and mutual consent. So, while the rest of the world might still see Iceland's approach to sex, nudity, and even sagas of seduction as weird for Icelanders, it's simply part of their identity. It's a country that challenges the world's perceptions of sexuality, gender roles, and freedom, and does so with a sense of humor and a level of respect that's hard to match. The police don't carry guns. The criminals don't carry anything. In Iceland, the concept of crime seems almost foreign. The country's famously low crime rate is not just a statistic. It's a way of life. Picture this: police officers who don't carry guns, minimal street violence, and a level of trust in society that seems almost unbelievable to outsiders. In fact, Iceland regularly ranks as one of the safest countries in the world. And it's not just the lack of guns or military presence that makes this possible. There's a deeper, more profound reason behind the nation's remarkable sense of peace: incredibly low crime rate. Iceland's crime rate is astonishingly low, with violent crime being a rare occurrence. The statistics are mind-blowing. The country's murder rate is practically non-existent, and robberies or assaults are few and far between. In fact, Iceland is so safe that tourists regularly walk around Reykjavik at night without a second thought. There's a profound sense of security that permeates Icelandic society. Whether it's a dark alley in the capital or a small village in the countryside, the likelihood of encountering danger is almost zero. It's not just about the numbers. Icelanders have cultivated a culture where trust, respect, and community are at the core of their daily lives. What's most impressive is how ordinary this peacefulness feels. Crime is so rare that many Icelanders have never experienced it firsthand, and the concept of a criminal feels almost alien to them. Iceland is one of the few countries in the world where you can leave your phone on a table in a bar, forget it for hours, and still find it there, waiting, with a thank you note left next to it. Decriminalization of substances. But Iceland doesn't just excel in safety, it's also a place where substance decriminalization has made a significant impact. In 2019, Iceland took the bold step of decriminalizing drugs, such as cannabis, on a personal use basis. While drug trafficking and the production of illicit substances are still illegal, the focus has shifted to harm reduction and treating drug use as a public health issue rather than a criminal matter. The idea is not to condone drug use but to provide support and resources for those who are struggling with substance abuse. This progressive approach is based on a belief in rehabilitation rather than punishment. The government focuses on education, counseling, and social support for individuals who may be involved in drug use rather than incarcerating them. This approach is part of a broader strategy of reducing harm and fostering a healthier, more inclusive society. While the decriminalization of drugs remains a controversial topic in many countries, Iceland has embraced it with an eye toward progress and humanitarianism. This move, coupled with the country's strong welfare system, has significantly reduced drug-related crimes and has made Iceland a leader in modern approaches to social justice and healthcare. The most laid-back law enforcement. In Europe, one of the most unique aspects of Iceland's law enforcement is how laid back it is. The country's police force operates on a system that prioritizes community engagement over military-style tactics. The police don't carry guns, and they don't need to. Icelandic officers rely on communication, problem-solving, and conflict resolution rather than force. They're more likely to stop and chat with locals, help a tourist with directions, or even lend a hand during a minor emergency than to engage in any type of high-intensity action. This calm, approachable approach is a reflection of Iceland's larger belief in social harmony and cooperation. The police are viewed as part of the community, and their main job is to ensure public safety in a way that respects people's rights and dignity. The idea that police officers would have to use force to resolve conflicts seems almost unthinkable in Iceland, where the atmosphere is generally one of mutual respect and understanding. What contributes to Iceland's societal peace? So, what makes Iceland's society so peaceful? The answer lies in a variety of factors, including its education system, trust in government, and robust welfare programs. First and foremost, Iceland is a country that values its people. The education system is designed to teach responsibility, civic duty, and mutual respect from an early age. Social equality is prioritized, and people are encouraged to look out for one another. Trust in the government is also incredibly high. Iceland has one of the most transparent and efficient political systems in the world, and its citizens generally have a positive view of public institutions. This widespread trust creates a sense of collective responsibility and encourages people to work together to maintain peace and order. Additionally, Iceland's welfare system is one of the strongest in the world. It provides support for individuals who are struggling with everything from health issues to economic hardship. This safety net ensures that Icelanders are cared for and protected, reducing the chances of societal unrest or crime. Real-world example: tourist loses phone in bar, gets it back with thank you note. To highlight just how safe Iceland is, Let's look at a real-life example. Imagine you're a tourist in Reykjavik, enjoying a night out at a local bar. After a few drinks, you leave the bar without your phone. What happens next? In most places, you'd probably assume your phone is gone for good. But in Iceland, a different scenario unfolds. One tourist recently lost their phone in a bar. Instead of a thief running off with it, the phone was found and the bar staff returned it, with a thank you note for being such a good guest. In Iceland, such a thing isn't considered strange. It's just another day in a country where crime is almost unheard of, and the community spirit reigns supreme. In a place where crime is nearly non-existent, drug use is decriminalized, and the police are known for their calm, compassionate approach. It's no wonder that Iceland is considered one of the most peaceful and trusting societies on Earth. The lack of violence and social unrest speaks volumes about the country's commitment to equality, education, and human rights. Values that make Iceland a place where security isn't just a priority, but a way of life. Under the Gucci jackets and iPhones, Icelanders are still Vikings. At first glance, Icelanders might seem like just another group of modern Europeans, with their stylish fashion, smartphones, and social media presence. But dig a little deeper, and you'll quickly discover that Iceland has preserved a vibrant Viking spirit that's very much alive. Despite all the contemporary luxuries and technology, the country's cultural pride in its Viking roots is undeniable, and it plays a crucial role in shaping Iceland's identity today. Cultural pride in Viking heritage. When you think of Vikings, the image that probably comes to mind is one of fierce warriors, sailing the seas and battling for land. In Iceland, however, Vikings are not just a distant part of history, they are part of everyday life. The country's Viking heritage is something to be immensely proud of, and Icelanders embrace it with enthusiasm. From the traditional Viking-style longhouses to the iconic Viking ship sculptures, the cultural connection to the Vikings is tangible and ever-present. The pride in being a descendant of Norse explorers is deeply rooted in the Icelandic psyche. Vikings weren't just warriors, they were pioneers, poets, and scholars. Icelanders continue to honor that legacy, embracing values like bravery, independence, and a strong connection to nature. These Viking values aren't just historical. They are a part of who Icelanders are today, from the way they approach challenges to their deep respect for the land. Icelandic sagas still taught in schools. One of the most fascinating aspects of Iceland's commitment to preserving its Viking heritage is how Icelandic sagas are still a central part of the national curriculum. These ancient epic tales, written between the 12th and 14th centuries, recount the adventures, struggles, and feats of early settlers, kings, and warriors. The sagas are more than just literature. They are the very foundation of Icelandic culture. Icelanders still read and study these sagas in school, where students learn about their Viking ancestors' triumphs and tragedies. These stories, filled with heroic deeds and dramatic conflicts, continue to inspire a sense of national pride and connection to the past. For Icelanders, the sagas are not just historical texts, they are living stories, carrying with them the spirit of the Vikings and providing a sense of continuity between past and present. The influence of these sagas extends beyond the classroom. They are celebrated in public life through festivals, museum exhibits, and even modern media adaptations. Iceland's cultural obsession with its Viking past keeps the sagas alive and relevant, as they shape the national identity and connect the modern Icelandic people with their ancient roots. Genealogy, obsession, and ancestral festivals. Another fascinating aspect of Icelandic culture is the obsession with genealogy. Given the country's relatively small population, many Icelanders are deeply connected to their family history. It's not uncommon for an Icelander to be able to trace their lineage back centuries, sometimes even to the Viking Age itself. This obsession with genealogy is not just about family pride, though. It's about understanding one's place in a broader historical and cultural context. The Icelandic obsession with ancestry is so profound that there are even specialized genealogy websites where people can research their family trees and connect with long-lost relatives. In fact, Icelanders have developed a popular app called Íslendingabók, which allows people to search for their ancestral roots and avoid accidentally dating a cousin. For many Icelanders, knowing their genealogical connection to the Viking settlers gives them a deeper sense of purpose and belonging in today's world. The Icelandic obsession with ancestry isn't just about research, though. It's also about celebration. Every year, there are ancestral festivals where Icelanders gather to celebrate their shared Viking heritage. These festivals often include reenactments of Viking battles, feasts with traditional Viking foods, and performances of sagas. It's a time for Icelanders to not only connect with their past, but also to celebrate the continuation of that Viking spirit in the present day. Icelanders abroad versus in Iceland. How the Viking spirit still rules ETUTT. Viking spirit is not just confined to Iceland's borders, it's also alive in Icelanders who live abroad. Icelandic expats often maintain strong connections to their Viking heritage, even when they're thousands of miles away. For these individuals, the Viking spirit becomes a way of life, whether it's through family traditions, Viking-inspired, fashion, or even Viking reenactment societies. Icelanders abroad may live in different countries, but they carry their Viking values with them, ensuring that the Viking heritage remains alive wherever they go. Interestingly, the Viking spirit is also very much alive within Iceland itself. Icelanders in the country tend to be deeply connected to the land, with a strong sense of independence and resilience, qualities that were essential to the survival of the early Vikings. The landscape itself, shaped by volcanic eruptions, geysers, and glaciers, serves as a constant reminder of the wild and unpredictable nature that the Vikings once faced. Icelanders, much like their Viking ancestors, embrace this tough environment, facing challenges head-on with a sense of determination and grit. The Viking spirit continues to define Iceland's character, both for those living in the country and for those who have ventured abroad. It's a spirit that's resilient, adventurous, and rooted in a strong sense of community. Even in the 21st century, Icelanders embody the courage, resourcefulness, and pride that characterized their Viking ancestors, proving that the Viking spirit is far from extinct. It's a part of who they are, today as much as it was 1,000 years ago. Reykjavik might be cold outside, but it's hot with weirdness inside. When you think of a capital city, you probably imagine towering skyscrapers, bustling crowds, and high-energy nightlife. But Reykjavik, it's a world away from that typical cityscape. In fact, this chill Nordic capital has a vibe that's as cool as the temperatures outside, and it's brimming with quirks that make it one of the most unique cities on the planet. Whether it's the unusual nightlife, the city's weird yet wonderful culture, or the surprising artistic expression around every corner, Reykjavik is the place where the unexpected is the norm. Nightlife, music scene, colorful streets, despite its small size and relatively low population, Reykjavik punches way above its weight in terms of nightlife. The city doesn't have the glitzy clubs or expensive bars you might expect in other capitals, but it more than makes up for it with a sense of authenticity and fun. The streets come alive in the evenings, and the nightlife scene is legendary for its no-frills approach to a good time. In fact, Icelanders have a tendency to stay out until dawn, with many bars and clubs staying open until the morning light. It's not uncommon to see people dancing and singing in small dive bars, where the music is as eclectic as the crowd. The city's music scene is especially vibrant, with local talent at the forefront. Reykjavik is home to some of the most innovative musicians in the world, and its live music venues often host small, intimate performances where you can get up close and personal with both well-known acts and up-and-coming bands. From indie rock to electronic beats, Reykjavik offers something for every music lover. There's even an entire music festival scene, with events like Iceland Airwaves drawing music fans from across the globe to experience the unique vibes of Icelandic talent. And then there's the colorful streets of Reykjavik, which are anything but ordinary. The buildings here are brightly painted in every shade of the rainbow, giving the city an almost whimsical feel. Wander through the streets and you'll discover a city that's both vibrant and charming, with street art on nearly every wall and murals that turn the sidewalks into open-air galleries. The quirky vibe of the city is reflected in the architecture, too, with buildings that have as much personality as the people who inhabit them. The overall aesthetic is fun, laid back, and undeniably Reykjavik. No skyscrapers, few people, yet. Bursting with life despite being the capital of Iceland, Reykjavik is far from a typical metropolitan hub. With a population of just over 130,000 people, the city feels small, intimate, and in some ways isolated. But that's exactly what makes it so special. The lack of skyscrapers and crowds means that the city is more walkable, and the pace of life is wonderfully slow and relaxed. There's no rush, no pressure. Whether you're strolling down the main street, visiting a local cafe, or hanging out in one of the many public parks, there's a sense of space and freedom in Reykjavik that's hard to find in larger cities. Despite the low population, Reykjavik is full of life. The small size of the city means that everyone knows each other, or at least has mutual friends, giving the place a unique sense of community. It's not unusual to bump into a friend while grabbing a coffee, and it's easy to strike up a conversation with a local at a bar or in a bookstore. That sense of connection is part of what makes the city feel so alive despite its low population. It's a tight-knit community where everyone seems to have their own place and their own role to play in the city's vibrant culture. Locals' quirks, from hot dog obsession to knitting clubs, one of the most charming aspects of Reykjavik is the quirky nature of its locals. Icelanders have some pretty unique habits and obsessions that make life in the capital feel a bit more offbeat. Take their love for hot dogs, for instance. The Icelandic hot dog is more than just a snack. It's a national pastime. Locals will line up at the most famous hot dog stand in the city, Bæjarins Bestu Pilsur, sometimes waiting in long lines just to get a taste of the country's most iconic fast food. But it's not just the hot dogs that the locals adore. They also have an enduring love for knitting, with many people participating in knitting clubs and crafting their own cozy sweaters, often made with the traditional Icelandic wool known as lopi. It's a warm and inviting tradition that reflects the friendly nature of the city's residents. Icelanders are also known for their eccentric hobbies, from collecting vintage vinyl to practicing sword fighting. Yes, sword fighting. Reykjavik is a city where individuality is celebrated and where everyone's quirks are embraced rather than judged. Whether it's dressing up in Viking gear for a festival or taking part in a random street performance, locals are never afraid to express their unique personalities. Public art, LGBTQ+ friendliness, and casual vibes. Reykjavik is also one of the most progressive and inclusive cities in the world. The city is well known for its LGBTQ+ friendliness, and it has a vibrant and supportive community. The Reykjavik Pride Festival is one of the biggest events of the year, drawing thousands of people from all walks of life to celebrate love and acceptance. But beyond the festival, the city is filled with a sense of openness and liberality, where people are free to be who they are without fear of judgment. One of the standout features of Reykjavik is its public art scene. The city is dotted with murals, sculptures, and street installations that inject a little creativity and fun into the urban landscape. It's common to see art pieces that challenge convention or make you think, whether it's an abstract sculpture by the harbor or a giant mural that turns an entire building into a canvas. These works of art are as much a part of Reykjavik's charm as the colorful buildings, giving the city a distinct personality and making it feel like a constantly evolving artistic playground. Ultimately, Reykjavik's vibe is simple. It's casual, quirky, and accepting. In a city where you can easily spot a group of friends sipping coffee in a cozy cafe, people dressed in leather jackets and knit hats at a pub, and street performers offering an impromptu concert on the corner, the essence of Reykjavik is about being yourself, no matter how weird or unusual that might be. It's a city that values authenticity, creativity, and a little bit of strangeness, and that's exactly what makes it such an exciting place to be. For all its beauty, Iceland hides a silent storm. Iceland is undeniably a land of unparalleled natural beauty, glaciers, volcanoes, and waterfalls that seem to be straight out of a dream. But behind the breathtaking landscapes lies a silent storm that many don't often talk about: the mental health struggles faced by Icelanders. While the country is often ranked high in global happiness reports, there's a side of Iceland that remains largely hidden: the mental health crisis that escalates during the long, dark winters. High rates of depression. During long, dark winters, Iceland's winters are notoriously long, stretching from October to April, with only a few hours of daylight each day. For many, the isolation and lack of sunlight can have a profound effect on their mental health. Seasonal affective disorder, SAD, is a common affliction in places with long winters and minimal daylight, and Iceland is no exception. As the days grow shorter and the darkness sets in, depression rates in the country tend to rise. The darkness doesn't just affect people's mood, it can make them feel more disconnected from the outside world, trapped in a cold, never-ending cycle of gloom. Though Iceland is frequently lauded for its high living standards and general happiness, these long winters can lead to feelings of loneliness, isolation, and despair. Icelanders are not immune to the mental health struggles that plague many societies around the world. The isolation that comes from living in a remote and sparsely populated country can compound these feelings, leading to an overwhelming sense of disconnection during the darkest months of the year. Mental health support systems. Despite the challenges posed by the long winters, Iceland has made significant strides in providing mental health support. The country offers a relatively high level of mental health care and has an open attitude toward seeking help. However, as with many small societies, there is still a level of stigma that can deter people from seeking the support they need. Icelanders, who pride themselves on their self-sufficiency, may struggle to open up about their mental health issues, leading to a form of emotional repression that makes it harder for people to access help. In recent years, though, there has been a concerted effort to normalize conversations about mental health. Local organizations, including government-run initiatives, have worked to raise awareness about mental health issues and provide better resources for those who are suffering. Programs like SAA, the Icelandic Association for the Treatment of Addiction, offer support for those battling addictions, depression, and anxiety, while groups like Heilsugæslan provide general mental health counseling to those in need. However, the mental health services in Iceland remain under increasing pressure, with a high demand for counselors and therapists that sometimes outweighs the supply. Seasonal affective disorder and local coping mechanisms. Icelanders have learned to cope with the mental health challenges brought on by their long winters in a variety of ways. One of the most common methods is the use of light therapy. Since the lack of sunlight is a major contributor to seasonal affective disorder, many Icelanders rely on light therapy boxes, which simulate natural sunlight, to improve their mood during the darkest months. These boxes have become so common in Iceland that it's not unusual to see them in living rooms, offices, and even bedrooms. Another coping mechanism that has been popularized in recent years is the country's unique practice of outdoor activities. While it might seem counterintuitive to go outside in the middle of winter, many Icelanders swear by the healing effects of nature. Hikes in the wilderness, geothermal baths, and walks in the crisp, cool air are part of the local tradition of self-care. The fact that Iceland is home to countless geothermal spas, including the famous Blue Lagoon, means that locals have an easy way to relax and recharge. These outdoor activities provide both a physical release from stress and a mental recharge that helps combat the darkness and isolation of winter. Balance. Between happiness rankings and hidden issues, Iceland is consistently ranked as one of the happiest countries in the world, thanks to its high standard of living, excellent healthcare, and strong sense of community. Yet, despite these outward indicators of well-being, the mental health statistics tell a different story. In a country with such a strong focus on community, the pressures of fitting into that small-knit society can take a toll on the individual. High expectations and social pressures to maintain an image of contentment can lead to disillusionment when people are secretly struggling. In recent years, studies have shown that while Iceland is one of the top countries for happiness, it also has some of the highest rates of alcohol consumption and mental health issues in Europe. Icelanders have an almost paradoxical relationship with their mental health. While they are outspoken about their feelings and struggles, they also experience feelings of dissatisfaction that often remain unspoken. The country's high rankings in happiness don't always tell the full story. Real stories of Icelanders dealing with mental health. Real stories from Icelanders reveal the hidden battle many face with mental health. Take the example of Hannah, a young woman living in Reykjavik who spent her early 20s struggling with anxiety and depression. Despite living in one of the most socially conscious countries in the world, she felt isolated and alone during the long winters, where the lack of sunlight left her feeling trapped. "It's hard to explain to people who don't live here," she says. "You just wake up and it's dark, and when it's dark all the time, it feels like nothing is going to change." She explains that while Iceland has great health care and accessible mental health resources, she often felt like people didn't take her struggles seriously. "People think because everything is perfect here that you should just be happy. But it's not that simple," Hannah adds. Like many Icelanders, she turned to light therapy, along with regular walks around the city, to try and combat the darkness both literally and metaphorically. "It helps, but sometimes it's still hard," she admits. Hannah's story is not unique. For many Icelanders, the journey to finding a balance between happiness and mental health is ongoing. The struggle is real, and it's something that isn't often talked about outside the country's tight-knit communities. Iceland may be known for its stunning landscapes and friendly population, but beneath the surface, it hides the reality of mental health challenges. The long winters, lack of sunlight, and isolation can take a toll on anyone, even in a country that seems to have it all. While there are great strides being made to address these issues, there is still much work to be done to support those struggling in silence. It's a reminder that even in the most beautiful places, the human experience is always more complex than it seems. I came for the beauty, but Iceland slapped me with truths I never expected. When I first arrived in Iceland, I had all the typical expectations: stunning landscapes, clear blue lagoons, and snow-capped mountains. I thought I was prepared for the natural wonders, but what truly took me by surprise was how this tiny, isolated country challenges every preconceived notion I had about life, love, and even myself. Iceland isn't just a postcard. It's a place that smacks you with the reality of what it means to live in a country that's equal parts bizarre and breathtaking. What shocked me the most? It wasn't just the fact that the people here genuinely believe in elves or that the country has no army. Those were eccentric details I could laugh off. What really shook me was the way Icelanders managed to live in such a remote, harsh environment, yet seem so emotionally resilient, so connected to their roots and the land, even as they wrestle with issues that many countries sweep under the rug. The sheer openness about mental health, the casual approach to dating, and even the financial struggles they embrace without flinching, it all made me reflect deeply on my own culture and habits. In my own life, we tend to shy away from the uncomfortable truths. We don't talk much about mental health. We don't openly address the weird and quirky aspects of life that set us apart. Iceland, on the other hand, doesn't shy away. It embraces the chaos, the contradictions, and the complexities of being human in a way that I'd never really seen before. Icelanders are completely comfortable with their flaws, their weirdness, and their willingness to explore everything from Viking heritage to open relationships. And honestly, I envy that level of acceptance. Iceland taught me that being different isn't something to hide or be ashamed of. In a world that's increasingly obsessed with fitting in, Iceland stands proudly weird, unashamed of its quirks and contradictions. Maybe that's exactly why we need it. In the middle of a world that seems obsessed with normality, Iceland offers a stark reminder that perhaps being truly authentic, in all our weirdness and imperfections, is exactly what makes us real, and even beautiful. In the end, Iceland wasn't just a destination. It became a lesson in embracing the unexpected, living with contradictions, and challenging my own notions about what makes a place, or a person, truly special. And in the strangest of ways, Iceland left me with a piece of itself, a reminder to stay proudly, unapologetically, weird. Now, it's your turn. Would you survive in a country where everyone might be your cousin and the sun doesn't rise for weeks? Iceland is not for the faint-hearted, but it's a place that pushes you to question everything you know about life, love, and living on this planet. So, what do you think? Could you handle a life surrounded by volcanoes, elves, and a cost of living that makes you laugh and cry at the same time? Drop your wildest question about Iceland below, and I'll personally reply with a fact that'll blow your mind. Seriously, you won't believe some of the hidden gems this country has to offer. And stay tuned, because in the next video, we're heading to a country where relationships don't start with swiping right, but with complete strangers, and end with arranged weddings. Curious? You should be. Trust me, this is going to be one unforgettable ride.